Right. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to class. Great to see you all, and great answers that I heard from you. You guys are amazing. You're so amazing. Thank you so much for your hard work and perseverance. Thank you, Ashanafi. Thank you all. And tonight we want to continue with our studies of malware. So I'll just share my screen quickly and we get right into the lesson. But before we start, I want to find out something. All right. So I don't know if I'm audible. Okay. So I can get a lot of yes. Thank you so much. All right. So welcome to class. We are continuing with our cybersecurity fundamentals, and we have essential skills and knowledge that we need to make progress in tech. There are some skills that even basic people who are not tech people but are computer literate are required to know. And so when it comes to tech professionals, we need to have some understanding. So tonight we want to get into the lesson and get some additional knowledge to make progress. And let's get right into our lesson. As usual, my name is Darlington, and I'm going to be your instructor for tonight. We started a journey in cybersecurity fundamentals, and we were exposed to some forms of cyber attacks. We saw different types of attacks, and we've gotten some knowledge about them. Right now, you know about brute force attacks, you know about distributed denial of service attacks, you know about a number of things, and these are good knowledge and information that you are supposed to have. And as a tech professional, you need to keep moving forward this way. This particular training, why the cybersecurity fundamentals class was set up, was actually because of malware. Yesterday, we started a journey of malware, and we read a lot about viruses. We read a lot about worms, and we got an idea of the Trojan horse story, how the story came about, and how we got the name Trojan horse. And this name, Trojan horse, is actually something that has become part of even English construction. And when people want to express certain things, they use it as a metaphor to mean something. Yes, so I've heard it being used in medicine, I've heard it being used in IT, I've heard it being used in English, and it is where we got the name from. And tonight, what we are going to do is to start by refining the information we got yesterday, make them clearer, talk about some of the vital key points to get a clear distinctions of these malicious applications. Because the fact is that if you do not have the understanding of these malicious programs, you will not be able to deal with them effectively. So for you to be able to prevent them and to cure systems that are infected or fix systems that are infected, you need to have, first of all, an understanding of the modus operandi or the mode of operations of each of these malicious programs. So I'm going to start, and I'm going to give you another preview of some of the ones we spoke about. And we saw that there are viruses, we have worms, we have Trojans, we have ransomware, spyware, and I'm going to start with viruses and worms, then I'll move on to Trojans, and we will talk about ransomware and spyware. So let's take a few summary of what we call viruses. And I asked my AI tool to create the image of a virus for me, and this is the image it created for me. He said this is a computer virus. So let's talk about viruses. Viruses. If you can hear me, if I'm audible, please put viruses in the chat for me. Viruses in the chat. Let me see that in the chat. Viruses. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Let me see the first person who will type viruses or virus. Thank you, Oluwafemi. Thank you. Um, thank you. Thank you so much. God bless you. Thank you. Let's move on. Now, listen to this. A virus, first of all, is a malicious code. Okay? A virus is a malicious code. Now, when you think of virus, don't be thinking of some bug, some strange bug. Maybe you are thinking of even a living bug or some animal or some biological infection. We are talking about computer viruses. And a computer virus is code, all right? It is code that is written to do something wrong or something harmful to another person. All right. So a software engineer who understands a language can write code to do something bad to someone. All right. So a virus is a malicious code that is designed by hackers to, first of all, attach itself to legitimate files. So with what we are reading, we are learning that the malicious code will attach itself to legitimate files, documents, or programs in a computer system. Most of the time, when we talk about viruses, our attention is within a system, and our focus is on the files, the programs, and the documents within that system. When we talk about files and when we talk about viruses and how it causes damage, we are not really talking about how it moves from one system to another system. Our focus is on the damage it causes to the system. Just like a biological virus, when it infects a person, it causes damage to that person step by step, and it keeps on working till it destroys the person. All right. So watch this. The virus, first of all, is code. And the code, the malicious code, attaches to a file or a program or a document in a system, turning that file or program into a host. So viruses, they like to have hosts. So they attach to something and that thing becomes a host. Now, when the infected host file is opened or executed, now the virus activates. So you have seen how the virus works. It attaches to a host. Then when the host is opened or executed, then the virus activates, replicating itself by attaching to other programs, other files, other documents, or even part of the operating system. So once the virus activates, then it starts to spread uncontrollably. When it starts spreading, it looks for other files, other programs, other documents, and it looks for system files that control the operating system. It spreads uncontrollably within the system or to other systems before executing its payload. Now, the focus here is on other systems. Once it gets, it's on within the system. Once it gets onto other systems, it begins a process again. All right. And to get on another system is a different thing that is out of the discussion we are having now. The discussion we are having now is about the damage that a virus causes to a system. And any system it gets onto, it causes the same damage it starts the same process again, and it will execute its payload. Now, the payload of a virus is typically intended to damage a system's core functionality by deleting or corrupting files, slowing down performance, causing system crashes, or sometimes stealing data. So a virus is a malware whose agenda is to damage a system's functionality by corrupting files that are okay, that are working. They will make sure they do not work anymore, or they will delete them. They will slow down the performance of a computer and even try to cause the system to crash. So you can see that viruses are not friendly at all. They are very dangerous and they come to destroy. Their agenda is just to destroy. Sometimes it has code to steal data from the victim. Now listen, viruses exploit security vulnerabilities in a computer system to infect them. When we say security vulnerabilities, we are talking about the loopholes within that system. If the owner of that system hasn't covered all loopholes, viruses take advantage of those security loopholes or vulnerabilities to infect them, often gaining access through suspicious downloads from the internet, email attachments, infected USB drives, or through network connections. Over here, we are talking about how they start working or how they get onto the system in the first place. So if you have a system that has no malware or no viruses, the first thing is that if there is a security vulnerability, and so cyber professionals, their job is to close and shut down all vulnerabilities, fix all vulnerabilities, so that a virus, a malware, or a hacker cannot exploit their system. Tomorrow, we'll talk about some of the ways that is done just for malware for now. So if you have a clean system and there are vulnerabilities, in cybersecurity, you are going to be hearing terms like threats. A threat has a meaning. Vulnerability is another term that has a meaning. A vulnerability doesn't mean you have been attacked. A vulnerability means there is a loophole somewhere. It's a risk. And through that risk, a malicious program or a hacker can exploit it. So if you have a clean system, you get viruses through suspicious downloads. What we mean by suspicious downloads is downloading something that is infected. Probably you thought you are downloading a free software that is actually supposed to be paid for, but you found a way to get it by force, and someone is offering it. Unknown to you, the software you are getting that you think is working is actually infected. Almost all the cracked software, almost all of them, more than 95% of every cracked software. When I say cracked software, I'm not talking about open source software. I'm not talking about software that is free from the creator. I'm talking about software that is proprietary, but you are trying to get it for free. Most of them, okay, most of them are infected. When they are cracked, they are infected. Sometimes through email attachments, and most of the time through infected USB drives. When we start learning about prevention, you realize that USB drives are a major threat to getting malware. And so if you are handling a USB drive that does not belong to you or is untrusted, untrusted means unknown, I can take a drive and connect it to my system without any worry because I know the drive. I'm the only one who uses it. I know everywhere it has been, and I have full confidence in it. But to connect a drive to my system that I don't know where it is coming from is extremely, extremely dangerous, and it is not supposed to be done by a security conscious person just like that. You shouldn't feel free to connect a drive to your system just like that. And most people do that. Over the years, I've seen people share things. Oh, can you give me this thing? Oh, take my pen drive. They just share things, and sometimes even in a computer school, I have set up computer systems for schools for so long, and there is not one time that without special prevention of attacks of infection that the computers have worked normally. It has never happened. There is no public use machine that is just free unless those who set it up have taken extra measures to prevent infections. All right. Those systems, all of them are going to be terribly infected. If you set up computers for a school, maybe every week or every 2 weeks, you have to come and do it all over again because all of them are going to be terribly infected because of how students use drives carelessly. They don't even think about security at all. So when we start looking at prevention, we will talk about USB drives. We'll spend some time on that. And then also through network connections. When computers are connected in a network and a computer connects to the infected computer and they share files, they can share a host file and it transfers to the system. All right, so over here, this is how they get onto the system in the first place. And the virus exploits that vulnerability and it waits to be activated. Viruses often remain dormant until they are activated. So once a virus gets onto the system, it wants to be executed. It's just like you having Microsoft Word on your computer. You know, if you don't run Microsoft Word, it doesn't start working, okay? But the moment you run it, it starts running in the background, starts running in your program, your task manager program files, and it starts working, okay? Let me quickly share my desktop again and show you something. So let me share my desktop. And over here, let me go to desktop, Windows D. All right, so I have my desktop here. And I don't have Microsoft Word open. You don't see Microsoft Word open. But when I open to this run box here, and I type WinWord, let me open to the task manager. In the task manager, a lot of applications or programs are running, but WinWord is not part of them. Let me go to details. So all these things are not running. Sorry, these are the things running, but WinWord is not part of them. Microsoft Word is not part of them. Okay, so I can see it running here. Let me end it, okay? Why did I open it? Let me check why I open it here. All right. So over here in my task manager, if there is a task here, let me end it. Okay, so I'll end the task. and it will be gone. So I don't have WinWord running on my system right now. All right, the image name of Microsoft Word is WinWord. So if you open to run new task, now the question right now is Microsoft Word on this system? The answer is yes, but it's not running right now. It's not running. Now, when I run it now here, you will see that it has opened right now. I can use it right now. And in the task manager, let's look for it, and you'll find that WinWord is now running over here. And it is running as an executable file. So whether you open it on the desktop or not, this is going to start running in the background. So now it is executing. It is consuming memory. Let me check the amount of memory it is consuming right now. So over here, I'll see it as Microsoft Word. And I'm not doing any work over there now, but you can see that, okay, it's not doing much, but it is here, it's running, okay? It is working, all right? So once you activate the virus starts running. You can see other programs running and doing their work. The virus also starts running. It's a program. And when it starts running like this, what happens is that it starts executing its payload. So just as Microsoft Word was dormant until I ran it, virus will also remain dormant until you run it and you activate it. So when you open the host file, then the virus will run its code. When the code runs, what is going to happen is that it is going to start spreading, and then it will activate its payload. Its payload is the intention of the code. And like I said, viruses are just code. So when we are talking about viruses, don't be thinking of animals. Think of code, malicious code. Now, the malicious virus code can be written in high-level programming languages like Python, Java, or C++. This is common when creating scripts or executable files that perform harmful actions. So all these hackers, real hackers, they are all software engineers. Real hackers. They all know coding. They know how to use these programming languages. And they write code to do something bad. Malicious code can also be written in scripting languages like JavaScript, VB scripts, or shell scripts, which can be embedded in web pages. So if you write JavaScript, JavaScript usually run in web pages. So malicious code can be written in JavaScript to run in web pages, VB script or shell scripts. They can run in web pages. They can be embedded in web pages, in emails, or in files. When you advance in coding, you realize all that is possible. And one thing about knowing how to code is that you become so powerful that the only thing you cannot create is what your mind is not able to think. Once you become that good, you can create anything. You become like a god of the tech world. You can create anything that you can think about. If you want to create Facebook, you can create it. If you want to create YouTube, you can create it. You need a mobile app for something, you can create it. All right? The power is in you. You can do whatever you want. All right? So these malicious actors, what they do is to use their coding skills to create viruses. Now, in documents like those created with Microsoft Word or Excel, Malicious code can be written as macros. Now, wait a minute. Inside document, you can also write code. Later on, you are going to discover that almost all the Microsoft Office applications, they allow you to write additional code within them. In Excel, in Access, you can actually write code within these documents to do additional things using VBA, Visual Basic for Application. And we have something called macros and modules. You can use macros to create instructions and scripts within a document. So as you learn these programs, you get to a level where you learn about macros. So these malicious actors, they can use macros to write malicious code. The macros are automated sequences of instructions that can be triggered by opening the document. So the moment the document is open, then the macro script or instructions also executes. So inside a document, a virus can be created. A virus can be created to hide in a document, and that document can be harmful. I'm sure in your life you have encountered viruses. You have encountered viruses, and some of them are really strange viruses. Some advanced viruses may be written in assembly language, which is a low-level programming language closer to machine code. So with assembly language, which is closer to machine code, this was one of the most advanced and powerful languages that was used in the past. Because it's low level, it is too hard to use. And so only very, very few people are able to write code in assembly language. Today, you can still learn assembly language and use it. But in the past, it was the only option. Now, we have high-level languages that are so easy to learn. You'll find out that as you advance in coding, as you advance in software engineering, as you advance in writing programs, a time will come, you yourself will be getting lower and lower and using languages to do things that are so advanced at a low level. And in programming, when we say low-level programming language, we are talking about a language that is closer to the hardware, closer to the system, that performs direct operations and give you direct control to all elements and components of the system and your code. For high-level languages, a lot of things are done in the background for you. All you have to do is to focus on your functionality and write your code to do what you want your program to do. So this is some additional information that has clarified viruses for us and given us more knowledge about viruses and how they spread and how they are created. Next, we are going to move on to worms. I asked my AI program to create a computer worm for me, and this is a computer worm it gave me. When I saw it for the first time, I was like, this is so scary. But then when I looked at it again, I realized it's a worm. And this is a computer worm. This is a computer worm. And this is another dangerous type of malware. So please type worm in the chat for me. If you are here with me, type worm. Type worm in the chat. Let me see the first person to give me worm. Ashanafi, thank you so much. Louis, thank you. Thank you. Luis, thank you. So this is computer worm. And we are going to look at how this malware also works. And I'm also going to give you summary information that will make this clearer. And this thing feels a little scary. It is scary because it is dangerous. And when it gets onto your network, you are in trouble. So a worm is a standalone program. First of all, this is not code that attaches to a file. No, this one is a standalone program. This means that it is a program, a software, a malicious software that works alone. It doesn't need a host, and it doesn't need human interaction. It works alone. It can do its thing without you. It doesn't need you to make a mistake. You know, a virus wants you to make a mistake before it gets what it wants. And when once it gets you, it doesn't need you. It will do what it wants. It is a type of malicious software that can replicate itself and spread to other computers. One of the behaviors of worms is that they like to spread to other computers. And tonight we'll look at how they do that. But they do this without needing to attach to a host file or a program. By hearing this alone, you've seen a clear distinction between viruses and worms. And that is the goal of tonight's lesson. Once a worm infects a system, it can quickly spread to other connected systems. So worms thrive in computer networks. And so once it gets one system, it looks out if there's another system connected to that system. And it does that without any user interaction. Unlike viruses, worms do not need to attach themselves to files or programs, making them particularly dangerous and difficult to control. They are self-sufficient and can move through networks by exploiting security vulnerabilities in operating systems, in software, or network protocols. So you can see that when a worm is operating, it operates usually in a network environment. I don't know how much idea you have about computer networks. Most companies have what we call a local area network that connects all their systems together. That network is good because it helps the company to work. For them to share files, share resources, it is very easy, makes work easier. And every company needs a network, a local network. In your network fundamentals class, you are going to talk about local area network. You are going to talk about metropolitan area network. You are going to talk about campus area network. You are going to talk about wide area networks. And you are going to talk about personal area networks. And you are going to explore how networks work. But once a worm finds a network, it looks for another connected system. And it works alone. And they exploit security vulnerabilities in operating systems. They like operating systems. I don't know why, well, I know why, but worms like all malware like operating systems. What they do is that they exploit security vulnerabilities in operating systems. Malware likes to work through the operating system. And so when we start learning about preventing malware or defending against malware, one of the first things you are going to learn which is the #1 prevention method, is updating operating systems. Updating operating systems. When you update your operating system, you fix a lot of security vulnerabilities. And most of the time, the reason why updates are created, here I'm not talking about changing from Windows 10 to Windows 11 or changing your Mac OS 10 to Mac OS 11. That's not what I'm talking about at all. But Windows 10 or Windows 11, almost every month or 2 or 3 months or 6 months, an update is released. And if internet is not your problem, inside your control panel or settings, you can set automatic updates. And so when there are updates released, your system updates automatically. But most people who have internet problems, they actually intentionally block automatic updates. You know, in the past, you used to do this, block automatic updates, not update your operating system, and it seems like it is a lot of work. Why should you update your operating system? But when you study about security, the first thing you are going to learn about preventing malware is updating operating system and also updating your software. The reason why updates are created, #1, is to fix security vulnerabilities. So whenever there's an update, those updates are security patches that fixes vulnerabilities that are found. Anytime a software is updated, it is not just updated to give you new features. Sometimes, yes, most of the time they add new features, but the main reason for updating the software is to fix security vulnerabilities. Because when they create a software that will be used by the whole world, when there's a website that will be used by the whole world, they know that attackers will always try and exploit this software. If you have a software that will go that far and many people will use it, hackers will tamper with that software because a lot of people are using it. And so these companies who make software, mind you, these popular programs that we use, there's a team of over 100 people working on it every day on a daily basis. They go to work working on it, upgrading it, and doing other things. Apart from the development team, we also have security team who are ethical hackers who are hired employees or contracted and given permission to do what we call pen testing. Please type pen testing in the chat. I didn't say pen testing. I just said pen testing. Please put pen testing in the chat for me if you can hear me. This evening, I don't know if my sound is clear, if you can hear me, because I've changed a lot of settings. So pen testing. So pen testing stands for penetration testing. Penetration testing. This is where ethical hackers or white hat hackers are given permission to penetrate into systems or to find vulnerabilities. That is why Kevin Mitnick said, as a security professional, your job is to find all the vulnerabilities and fix them before the attackers exploit them. And so each and every day, they keep finding and they keep discovering new vulnerabilities. Vulnerabilities doesn't mean there's an attack. It means there are risks, something that the hackers can take advantage of. And so most of the updates are updates to fix vulnerabilities, updates to make sure that if previously the website could be attacked through SQL injection, now we have fixed it. So the SQL injection will no longer work. And this is done a lot for operating system. Operating system files are so many, and you have no idea which file the hacker will go through to attack a machine. Some of the popular programs we are using, you have no idea how hackers are scrutinizing them, looking for ways to find loopholes so that they can attack the masses who use these programs. Also through the network protocols, worms take advantage of that. When we start the webmaster class, we'll talk a little bit about servers and a little bit about networks and protocols. Once a worm infects a computer, watch this. The worm scans the network for other connected devices with similar vulnerabilities. So we said that the worm would look for other connected devices. This is how they do it. The worm can run a scan on the network, a technical scan, and find all the ports, all the IPs, all the connections. Which machine that is connected is having the same vulnerability as the one I have infected? When it finds a vulnerable system, the worm copies itself to that system and continues the process of spreading rapidly across the network. So look at how smart a worm is. Once a worm gets into a network, it looks for vulnerabilities. If any machine on that network has the same vulnerability as the one that it came through, it will just copy itself to that easily without any help, anybody's help. It doesn't need a helper. Someone said, I need a destiny helper. I need someone to help me in my life. A worm doesn't need a destiny helper. A worm is self-sufficient. It continues the process and spread. Wow. Sometimes, listen to this, because the network was set up by the same team, by the same system administrator, by the same network engineer, this is what happens. Most of the time, the vulnerabilities are the same. And so there are companies that these worms can take over all their computers in the branch. As a matter of fact, there are companies that these worms or this malware can take over even all their branches because they have the same protocols. Worms are so devious. When you study into details about worms, you realize that they can even operate through the internet and can spread on a global scale. Please type global scale in the chat. It sounds so interesting to me. Worms can spread on a global scale. Wow. Look at this one. Worms can send themselves as attachments or links through email. Wait a minute. Did you hear what I said? Watch this. Watch this. Watch this. A worm can send itself as an attachment or a link through email. First of all, the worm will create the email, and the worm will send the email to all the contacts of the victim, And the worm will make itself a link in the mail or an attachment in the mail or through a chat, instant messaging, tricking users into opening them, and then it infects them. I believe by now you have seen the differences between a virus and a worm. A worm also has its own payload, and its payload could be to do several things. Most of the time, they'll do denial of service attack to the network or to a server. At times, they will run the memory of the systems and the network and take over the bandwidth and make the network slow. And once they spread, the payload could be to do a lot of different things. Worms can cause significant damage by consuming bandwidth, overloading servers, and spreading rapidly across networks, leading to widespread disruptions. Wow. So I'm going to ask a question right now. We're going to ask a question. From what you've learned about viruses and worms, which one is more dangerous to you? Tell me in the chat, which one is more dangerous? Worms, viruses, which one to you do you think is more dangerous? Gloria says it's worms, so okay. All right, so a lot of people are typing worms. So, like I did this in the morning class, I need my first caller for tonight. And I want you to tell me why, tell the whole class why a worm is more dangerous than a virus. Anybody, we need someone to talk. Let's get interactive. Someone should to speak before we continue the class. So why do you think a worm is more dangerous than a virus? I need someone to speak before we continue. All right, so just raise your hand and I'm going to call you. I need someone to speak, then we'll continue with the class. So tell us why a computer worm is more dangerous than a virus. So just raise your hand. Let's get interactive. Raise your hand. Raise your hand. And I'm going to call you. Okay, I'm waiting. Or should I mention names? Should I call someone? Just raise your hand. I know you understand by now, and I'm happy I did this summary to give some clarity on what we studied. But from yesterday's lesson, that is why it makes more sense to you today. And I'm just believing that it makes sense to you today. All right. Anybody? Just raise your hand and I'm going to call you. And tell us why computer worms are more dangerous than computer viruses. So okay, so I'm waiting. I saw a lot of people put in the chats. So please just raise your hand. I'm going to see, and I will call you. Then we move on. Let's get interactive. So just raise your hand. And we want to hear our first caller for tonight. So who is it going to be? All right, so I'm waiting for you, and I want you to speak, and then we continue. All right, so please unmute and try unmuting, and let's continue. Tell us why worms are more dangerous. So I can see Busimuzi. Please try unmuting and let's see if it works. If you can unmute, then we will continue.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. Welcome.
Oh, thank you. I think worms are more dangerous because they can operate on a large scale, causing widespread damage, and they can also spread very rapidly. The other thing is that they do not need to be activated; they activate themselves. Thank
Hmm.
you.
Thank you so much. All right. So that was wonderful. That was wonderful. I saw Google. Can you raise your hand and I'm gonna call you? If I thought you wanted to speak, so try unmuting and speak.
Good evening, sir. Can you
Good
hear
evening.
me?
I never knew Google was female. This thing
Okay.
happens to me. It
Um,
happens to me a lot. All right, let's go.
okay. So I think that worms are more dangerous than viruses because they tend to spread more faster than viruses and they are difficult to detect or remove.
Hmm. Wow, that's very true. That's very true. That's very true. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah, so worms are more dangerous. Hmm. Imagine how dangerous viruses are and look at worms. Next, we are going to move to Trojan horse. And I asked my AI tool to create a Trojan horse for me. And it created this for me and said, when you hear Trojan horse, don't be thinking of a wooden horse. It was created from a wooden horse idea, but now this is a software. So this Trojan horse is a software, another dangerous malware. Another dangerous malware. Sometimes when we talk about malware and attacks, people trivialize it and they think it is nothing. They think it's not happening. They think these are simple things or interesting. While you are seeing it as interesting, they are attacking someone. And just now, someone just got attacked. People are being attacked. And these are dangerous programs. Malware are dangerous, dangerous. All right. A Trojan horse, often simply called a Trojan. So you can call it a Trojan horse. You can call it a Trojan. It's a type of malicious software that disguises itself as a legitimate software or useful program to deceive users into installing it. So a Trojan horse or a Trojan, if you come from Troy, you are called a Trojan. So The horse from Troy, the Trojan horse, is also called a Trojan. If you are Nigerian, if you are from Nigeria, you are Nigerian. So this malware is a horse from Troy. It's called a Trojan horse, and it's a Trojan by itself. And it is a malicious program that disguises itself. It takes its strength from disguise and deceit and tricks. It disguises itself as a legitimate software or a useful program to deceive users into installing it. Wow. Unlike viruses, Trojans do not replicate themselves or spread automatically. Okay? 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 So you just got new information right now. And when you are studying about malware, there are several attributes that you learn about each malware. And there are categories of properties or attributes that you need to study. For example, when you get to viruses, you look for replication ability. Is it able to replicate? Then you see in the table, yes. What about worms? Does it have replication ability? Then you see in the table, yes. When you get to Trojans, replication ability is no. A Trojan cannot replicate or spread automatically. A virus can spread automatically and make copies of itself. A worm can make copies of itself. But a Trojan cannot make copies of itself. Instead, they rely on tricking users into believing they are installing a harmless application or file. Once a Trojan is activated, a Trojan can perform a wide range of malicious actions without the user's knowledge. These are the key characteristics. Number one, disguise. Trojans often appear as seemingly innocent files, but very dangerous. Or applications or updates. They might be disguised as popular software, wow, or games, or system tools, making them difficult to distinguish from legitimate programs. So the same way we learned in phishing that hackers can mimic a real company and let you think that you are dealing with that company, a Trojan horse can also mimic a popular program and let you think you are using that program or you are downloading that program. Number two, deceptive entry. Trojans typically enter a system through deceptive means. This might include email attachments that appear to be from trusted sources. So they take advantage of trusted sources and they disguise themselves as trusted sources. They do their deceptive entry through fake software downloads. That is downloading software that are proprietary, but you are trying to download for free. Most of them are infected with a Trojan horse. Or a compromised website offering free software or updates. This is how they enter into systems. Usually, when attackers have no way of getting into a company, they've tried everything, they try to use a Trojan horse. Look at the War of Troy. They tried to defeat Troy. They did everything. They couldn't. And so they had to find a way to deceive them and let they themselves bring the infection in. So a Trojan horse has two deceptions. First of all, the Trojan horse itself is a deception, and then there is a social engineering deception attached to deceive the person. So the person is deceived, And then the Trojan horse itself is also a deception. Let's look at number 3, payload, malicious payload. Once installed, a Trojan can execute a variety of harmful actions. So the Trojan has its payload. Common payloads include stealing sensitive information, like passwords or financial data. This means a Trojan horse can steal data. And one thing that is number 1, I should have made this one number 1, installing additional malware. Anytime you listen to Trojan horse, one of the first things they do is to invite malware in, additional malware. Just like the Troy story, when the gate was open, the first thing they did was to wave and call the army in. So the Trojan horse will open a back door and invite other malware in, granting unauthorized access to a system. That could be another payload, allowing the hacker to gain remote access, or damaging system files and settings. That could be the payload as well. No self-replication. Unlike viruses, Trojans do not spread themselves. They rely on users to download and execute them. However, once they are inside the system, they can facilitate further malware infection or system breaches. So they can bring in a worm. Even though they can't replicate, they got you. They can bring in their senior brother and their cousins, worms and viruses, and their nephews, and they can come in and cause more damage. It's so interesting. Number 5, user interaction required. Trojans typically require some form of user interaction to be activated. So, similar to a virus, you can see that Trojans also want you to do something, such as opening an email attachment or running a seemingly harmless file. You see, so this is where the social engineering comes in. So they try to lure you to do something. So if you look at the Troy story, the people had to be deceived to think that the horse is friendly, and they had to bring it in. And the horse itself was a deception. The people were deceived, and inside the horse was not a real horse. It was a Trojan horse. So this is how they behave. I don't know if I've told you this story, but one hacker did everything possible to hack a company. He couldn't find any loophole. All their network systems were intact. Everything was okay. All the security protocols were in place. Everything, he couldn't get in. So what he did was to infect several USB flash drives with a Trojan horse, and went to the car park of the company and just dropped it at vantage places, and went home, hoping that someone will take that drive and send it into the system. One uneducated employee, maybe skilled at what they do, but have no security training, saw a USB flash drive and thought, wow, someone left this and no one is coming for it. There's nowhere to send it. So he put it in his bag. The next day he came to work and was so curious, what is on this thing? If I'm going to use it, I may first check what is on it. Connected it and saw a music file. What song is this? Opened the music file trying to listen, not knowing it was a Trojan horse. So at the other end, the attacker got an alert that access has been granted. So these attackers, they write code to infiltrate systems. And this thing is done on a very wide scale. As we are sitting here, there are companies that are trying to hack each other. There are countries that are trying to hack each other. And when you see presidents of nations smiling to each other, you have no idea how much harm they are causing to each other and how much confrontations are happening in the background. On TV, you see them shaking hands and smiling, but you have no idea. This is Trojan horse. We are going to take a short break, and when we return, we will delve into what is known as ransomware. So thank you for your time. All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome back from the short break. We want to continue with our studies, and we want to move on to another type of malware. After this particular lesson, we have gotten knowledge about viruses, worms, and Trojan horse, and it has become much clearer. The understanding has become much clearer. And to prevent these malicious attacks, the first thing that needs to be done is for you to understand their mode of operation so that you know how to deal with them, especially if you're a security professional. And you don't want to be someone who just told that this install this on your computer and it will be okay. Your computer will be safe. Do this and things will be fine. But you don't really have understanding. You only follow things that they tell you to do, and whether knowing whether it is working or not, you have no idea. You just hope that what they have told you, you have done it, and so it should work. No. So as a professional, you need to have in-depth understanding. You need to have foundational understanding, and so that is why it is necessary for you to spend time learning these things. So we want to move on to another type of malware called ransomware. Please put that in the chat for me, ransomware. Put ransomware in the chat for me. Let me see ransomware in the chat. Let me see ransomware in the chat. Ransomware. One time I mentioned this, and one student said ransomware. I didn't say ransomware. I said ransomware. And you can hear the word ransom in it. You can hear the word ransom. And so if you look at this computer here showing on your screen, you can see a computer that has been chained and locked. Ransomware is like that. With ransomware, your computer and your data are locked and encrypted and held hostage. And you are asked to pay a ransom payment before it is released. Just like human beings are kidnapped and they call their family and demand a ransom, this happens to computers. And today, for the past few years, this has been one of the most common attacks that is going on. And attackers are using this attack to make money, and it is quite easier to launch a ransomware attack. And we even have software that you can buy that can launch the attack for you. And so this is a very dangerous attack. And before we study it further, I want us to watch a short documentary on a 15-minute documentary on what is happening today with regards to ransomware. Sometimes when you hear about this malware, You may think they are just simple, but they are causing great devastation. And this particular one is a hot cake ransomware that is going on now. So let's take a listen and let's watch as well what is happening with ransomware and how real and how dangerous a ransomware is. With ransomware, a computer is hijacked and you are asked to pay. So a pop-up will show on your screen giving you instructions on how to make your payment, usually through cryptocurrency. All right, so we are going to watch a short clip and we are going to see how this works. So let's pay attention because we'll be getting a lot of details from this video. And after that, we will continue.
They're happening thousands of times every day. Ransomware attacks are the cyber threat of our times. It seems like no one is safe from having their data encrypted by dark web forces, only to be asked to pay to get it back.
The share of ransomware attacks really dramatically rose over the past years, and usually by more than 100 up to 200% per year.
They're making businesses poorer.
This is, big money, hundreds of millions of dollars, maybe even billions of dollars per year in ransom attacks.
And hackers much, much richer.
The best cyber criminals in the world, like some of the young guys in St. Petersburg, they're making $1 million a month.
We're witnessing the industrialization of cybercrime. Not only is there money to be made in demanding large ransoms from hacking victims or from selling their precious data onto third parties, but there's also a business opportunity in servicing the hackers themselves.
In this video, we'll follow the money. How much are hackers making? Who is helping them? And what are the costs of paying the ransom or not?
I'm in the district of Anhalt-Bitterfeld in the German state of Saxony-Anhalt. Just a few weeks ago, the council here fell victim to a savage cyber attack. Hackers got into their computer systems and crippled them.
Ich habe den Computer hochgefahren und die Oberfläche, der Desktop, sah ein bisschen anders aus. Da habe ich mir aber noch keine Gedanken gemacht. Ja? Und man macht dann irgendeine Anwendung auf, ein Word-Schreibprogramm zum Beispiel will man aufmachen und es geht nicht. Da war jetzt aber hier dann nichts von Verschlüsselung oder von, es ging nichts.
The council had fallen victim to a classic ransomware attack. Here's how they usually work. Having chosen their victim, the hacker gains access to key files on their computer, having exploited some security flaw to get in. The hacker then encrypts the files, meaning the victim can no longer use them. They'll then discover a ransom demand from the hacker, pay up and get your files back. 2021 has seen ransomware attacks on a scale never seen before. A hack on the Colonial Pipeline affected fuel supplies to much of the US East Coast. Another cyber attack on software provider Kaseya had an impact on businesses around the world.
Im Laufe des Tages oder im Laufe des nächsten Tages hat sich dann also das Schlimmste bewahrheitet, dass es ein Cyberangriff auf das gesamte Netzwerk des Landkreises an all seinen Standorten, wir haben 3 große Standorte in Köthen, Bitterfeld und Zerbst, dass das betroffen ist und dass ein weiteres Arbeiten über dieses Netzwerk mit der vorhandenen Technik erstmal nicht möglich ist.
As I speak to you, it's 3 weeks after the original cyber attack, but the council here still can't provide some pretty basic services. For example, in Anhalt-Bitterfeld, you can currently buy a car, but you can't drive it anywhere because you can't register it.
The quickest way out of a ransomware attack is to pay the ransom. Usually the victim will get access to their files back. But if they don't pay, well, their files stay encrypted, and the hacker may even threaten to sell access to those files to someone else.
Mal klipp und klar, wir werden kein Lösegeld bezahlen. Wir sind der öffentliche Dienst und öffentlicher Dienst lässt sich nicht erpressen.
So we don't know how much in ransom the hackers are demanding, but the cost to the council here of creating a whole new safe network is going to be huge.
Für den schlechtesten Fall, dass wir den Großteil unserer alten Hardware, also dann reden wir von das, von dem oder von anderen Sachen, einen Großteil neu anschaffen müssen, weil diese nicht mehr verwendbar sind, dann sind wir nicht mehr im sechsstelligen, sondern im siebenstelligen Bereich.
As soon as a ransomware attack happens, the victim can be sure it's going to cost them.
Not only is the average ransom demand estimated at $150,000 to public and private bodies, but also there's the cost of recovery, and that's potentially the biggest cost of all. I mean, the average ransomware attack results in 21 days of downtime for a business. The cost of that is averaged at over $250,000.
Hackers are aware of these extra costs to the victims and use them to their advantage when setting the ransom.
They actually look at, how much money this company makes a month. If we're shutting everything down, how much is it going to cost that organization, and what's a good price to set our ransom at that's not too high, because we don't want them to avoid us and not pay it and try to find other ways to get back online, but not too low, because then we're leaving money on the table.
The past few years have seen ransomware attacks grow, not just in number, but in size. And with that, so have the ransoms.
Ransomware, if you think back to 2016, was an individual problem. And you would have to pay a couple $100 to get the key to recover that data. In 2016, 2017 timeframe, we started seeing threat actors emerge that understood that if they targeted an enterprise with that same attack, they could demand much higher dollar figures. So $300-400 became $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 in ransom attack. That has gone up, exponentially. I think we're seeing routinely millions and millions, tens, 50, $100 million, even more in some cases, in ransom demands.
And these enormous ransom amounts are being paid. Colonial Pipeline revealed it handed over $5 million to the hackers just a day after the cyber attack began. The world's biggest meat producer, JBS, paid $11 million to end its ransomware nightmare. Victims aren't always open about whether or not they pay out, but clearly enough of them are.
We're certainly seeing and aware of many of these ransom payments going out because we track the cryptocurrency wallets that these threat actors are using, and we're able to identify when there are payments being made. I think it's a lot more frequently than anybody would care to admit, because these threat actors aren't going to keep doing these types of attacks if they're not making money off of it.
However, the ransom isn't the only way the hackers can get money out of their victim. Remember, they've had access to all of their precious files.
They can also make money by reselling data that they gained in the attacks, for example, of course, private, personally identifiable data, or also, let's say, identity and access data that will allow third parties to maliciously exploit a company server or something like that.
We can't talk about the costs of cyber attacks without talking about cryptocurrencies.
The fact is, ransom payments aren't made in dollars or euros. They're made with cryptocurrencies, online encrypted currencies that leave no paper trail. Anonymous, untraceable, everything a hacker could want.
It's all the advantages of cash from a criminal standpoint, but with this added advantage of it being able to work across the internet. The problem with cash as a criminal is that it's physical and you have to move it. Cryptocurrency removes that issue for them. So it's obviously a fairly attractive way to get all this done.
They can effectively launder that without ever leaving their house. And then they can also do things like jump from one blockchain to another blockchain. So converting it from Bitcoin to Monero or something like that. And it becomes very hard to follow the money.
So who are they? Well, as the scale of the ransomware hacks has changed in recent years, so have the attackers.
Large-scale cyber attacks are rarely carried out by the archetypal individual hacker hunched over a keyboard in a dimly lit room. To attack a complex organization often takes a complex organization.
We see an increasing professionalization of ransomware groups actually conducting these attacks. So it's not only individuals.
It's a criminal activity where people want to make money. And there's a whole ecosystem there. There's an ecosystem of tools, ecosystems of organized crime networks, hacking networks, tool networks, teams that work together around the world.
That's Rod Beckstrom. Once head of the National Cybersecurity Center, he spent years on the front line of the US fight against cybercrime.
So for a moment, let's simplify the world and say there's three superpowers in hacking. There's US, Russia, China. They have very different models and different motivations. You know, if you look at the US kind of wants to be the protector of the free world. So they're using their capabilities to watch what's going on in the world, prosecute crimes, prosecute drug rings, counterterrorism, et cetera, et cetera. If you look at China, their goal is to become, you know, a super rich and prosperous middle kingdom, to be a world power. Russia, on the other hand, is lost its empire, right? The Soviet Union's gone. It may wish to regain that. And in the meantime, it doesn't have the same power status geopolitically it had before. And so it seeks relevance. How does it become relevant? By being disruptive.
And a great way to be disruptive is to interfere with your rival's infrastructure and their businesses.
There's an important distinction to make when it comes to national governments and cyber attacks.
And that's between states commissioning the hacks themselves or simply just allowing them to be carried out from their territory.
And there's definitely a sense of it being easier to conduct this sort of operation in certain parts of the world compared to others. So that's not the same as a nation state funding this type of activity, but you know, in terms of its consequence, it's kind of similar.
The US and others have accused Russia of providing a safe haven for hackers, turning a blind eye to their activities as long as Russian targets are left alone. The Kremlin has never confirmed nor denied it. The country's surplus of computing talent and shortage of well-paid jobs make Russia a rich breeding ground for hackers.
When you have state-run hacking activities, the people that work for the state as employees of the government don't make nearly as much as they can make doing criminal activities. This hacking is bad for Russia because you're teaching your best and brightest, your brilliant young people who could be building companies and building fruitful technologies. In some cases, in many cases, are doing criminal activities, and that's not good.
Often these criminal groups can rival in size their biggest targets. Vast networks of hackers operating on the dark web, not only carrying out the ransomware attacks, but helping others to execute them too.
It's known as ransomware as a service, and like its legitimate counterparts, software as a service, it involves the leasing out of computer programs at a price. But you won't find a download link for these ones by searching on Google.
It handles all of the key management. It handles all of the data extortion in some cases. And it also can handle the negotiation and payment in some cases. And so you can come in as a fairly novice criminal actor, just having some skills, and use this ransomware as a service to basically be the back end of your operations.
What we can see is that these groups become increasingly professional, not only in terms of the tools that they develop, but also in terms of the, let's say, customer service they offer to clients.
And for that service, they're taking, 20, 25, 30% off the top of the ransom demand.
These dark web services include a lot of the things we expect from the normal web. The wannabe hacker can get access to customer support, FAQs, and even reviews.
I would argue that ransomware operators took some cues from Silicon Valley, and that was actually a part of what kind of inspired ransomware as a service. It's not that Silicon Valley is to blame.
And these criminal groups won't just offer support to the hacker who hires them, they'll also offer their services to the party who's been hacked.
They engage with these victims in case victims have questions on, how to pay or how to regain their data or how to pay the ransom, because it's in the interest of these ransomware groups to get paid or to receive the ransoms.
If you get infected with ransomware, it will teach you how to sign up for a Bitcoin wallet, how to, connect your credit card, do all these different things. It's very helpful in that sense. Like some of these operators even have like fully serviced and actually quite good support services.
The whole industry around hacking has reached a level of professionalism that many legitimate sectors could only dream of.
With the cybercrime business booming on the dark web, are we losing the battle against the hackers?
I don't think that either public or private companies are especially well prepared for ransomware attacks. These attacks are extremely complex, and the technologies that they target are extremely complex. So it's very difficult for one organization to secure their entire networks against any kind of attack.
It's about being, having good hygiene, being safe, but also being forward-looking with threat hunting and threat intelligence to make sure that you're not waiting to be a victim. Because if you are hoping it's not going to happen to you, hope is not a strategy.
Calling it out as a business model, that's deliberate because ransoms go back, at least 500, 600 years in terms of written history. Like it's not a new idea. It's just being applied in this different framework, and that framework makes it really successful.
I have a law of cybersecurity. It's called Beckstrom's Law of Cybersecurity. It's 12 words. Anything networked can be hacked. Everything is being networked. Everything is vulnerable.
And that's all from this edition of DW Business Beyond. If you want to know more about the money that makes the world go, a playlist. And while you're clicking on things, why not click on like and subscribe too? Cheers.
All right. So when we talk about malware, and when we talk about ransomware, this is a type of attack that is going on, and it's so popular today. It is a type of malware that encrypts the victim's files or logs them out of their computer system. So it will encrypt the files and lock the victims from their computers, holding their data or system hostage. Now, to regain access, the victim is typically asked to pay a ransom, often in cryptocurrency, like Bitcoin, to the attacker. Even after paying the ransom, there is no guarantee that the data will be restored or that the system will be unlocked. And so they ask you to pay. And what is happening is that the companies are paying. They are paying for it. Most people actually pay. And the thing is that they don't tell you they have paid. Most people are quiet about their attacks because they don't even want customers to hear that they've been attacked. Companies who are known to be attacked, they lose customers. Customers will think their data will be at risk, so business will no longer come to them. Sometimes they don't even report to the police, but they pay. Some refuse to pay, and companies are advised not to pay, but they are paying, and when you pay, there's a chance that they will unlock it for you. But if you don't pay, for sure, your files will not be unlocked. They will not unlock it if you don't pay. And most of the time, they threaten that if you don't pay, they will do something else. And they'll do it. One of the things they do is to release your data on the dark web. so that other hackers will find your data to cause more harm to you. They can sell your data. If there are sensitive data that you have running your company, they can expose them. So ransomware, how does it work? Infection. Ransomware typically spreads through phishing emails, okay? Malicious attachments, compromised websites, or through exploit kits that take advantage of vulnerabilities in software. So through vulnerabilities in software, another dangerous malware can come in. Then their execution. Once the ransomware is executed on the victim system, it begins to encrypt files. This is how it works. It begins to encrypt files. Last week, I mentioned about cryptography and how we use cryptography to encrypt files to protect them. Here, encryption is used to do that. They will encrypt your files and lock the user out of important documents, databases, or even the entire operating system. Then notification. After encryption, the ransomware displays a ransom note on the screen, informing the victim of the attack. You are being informed that you have been attacked. Number two, providing instructions on how to pay the ransom to restore access to the encrypted files or system. Number four, the payment parts and decryption. If the victims pay, the attacker may provide a decryption key to unlock the files or system. Sometimes they give you access because they want you to believe that when you are attacked, you will get it back or you should pay so that their business can continue. But it is not, they are not obligated, and there is a significant risk that the attacker will not follow through after payment. Let's look at types of ransomware. Number one, we have crypto ransom. This type encrypts files on a victim's computer, making them inaccessible without the decryption key. The goal is to force the victim to pay for the key. This is called crypto ransomware. Then we have locker ransomware. Instead of encrypting files, locker ransomware locks the user out of their entire system, preventing them from accessing their desktop or applications. A ransom is demanded to unlock the system. So a locker ransomware will lock the entire system. Then we also have scareware. This type of ransomware pretends to be a legitimate software that detects issues on the user's computer, like viruses or illegal activity, and demands payment to fix them. Unlike other types, scareware doesn't usually lock or encrypt files, but relies on the fear to extract payment. So this is a type of ransomware that they make you pay for things. They can tell you that your memory has run out, you have issues, therefore risk on your system. Click here, pay this, and fix it. And some people pay. So those are called scareware. They make you afraid of something that is not real, and they ask you to pay, and they'll do it for you. Then number four, we have RAS, ransomware as a service. In cloud computing, we learned about SaaS, software as a service. Now they've turned it into RAS, ransomware as a service. And this is a model where cyber criminals purchase ransomware kits from developers. Usually script kiddies who cannot make their own programs, they purchase ransomware kits from the hackers themselves and use them to launch their attacks. The hackers take a percentage of the ransom while the attackers keep the rest. Let's look at the effect of ransomware. It causes data loss, it causes financial loss, it causes operational disruption, it causes legal and regulatory consequences. Usually, tomorrow we'll be focusing more on prevention, but tonight I want to mention one or two preventions when it comes to malware. Number one, regular backups. As for ransomware, you are supposed to back up your data and store it in a secure offline location. This ensures that you can restore your files without paying the ransom. So if you don't pay, you will not get your files back. But if you had a recent backup, what happens is that you already have most of your data, so you can choose not to pay. Still depending on how sensitive the data is. Some refuse to pay. Number two, use reputable security software. So in prevention, you can use reputable security software. When we start talking about antivirus, we will talk about some of these. Then keep software updated. Regularly update your operating systems and applications to ensure patch vulnerabilities that ransomware could exploit. Number four, we have educate users. Train employees and users to recognize phishing mails, suspicious links, and attachments, which are common vectors for ransomware. Number five, implement network segmentation. This is something very important. Sometimes when a network is created, they advise you to create segmentation. So tomorrow when we get to firewall, we will learn something about segmentation. And this is necessary because once your network is segmented, if one is taken down, it is not the entire company that has been taken down. It is just one group of machines that were taken down. So it can even create more devastation through networks that are together. So it is good to ensure that networks are segmented. So segment your network to limit the spread of ransomware and isolate critical systems from general systems. Well, you can also use multi-factor authentication to add an extra layer of security, and you can also do email filtering. Use email filtering tools to block malicious attachments and links before they can reach your inbox. How do you respond to attacks? One of the first things to do is to isolate the infected systems. Disconnect the infected systems from the network or prevent the ransomware from spreading to other devices. So this is the number one thing you do. You disconnect the system from the server and make sure that they are disconnected to prevent the ransomware from spreading to other devices. Because sometimes they can infect several devices. And so once you prevent them from spreading, it will limit, once you disconnect them, it will limit the number of devices they can infect. Number two, you are advised not to pay the ransom. Paying the ransom encourages further attacks, and there is no guarantee that you will regain access to your data. Additionally, paying the ransom may violate legal or regulatory arrangements. So you are advised not to pay, but like I said, they pay. Then number three, restore from the backup. So if you have your backups, restore them to a state before the ransomware. Number four, you are advised to contact law enforcement. So it's good to report it. Companies sometimes do not report because they do not want anyone to know their company has been attacked. Report the ransomware attack to law enforcement agencies. They may be able to provide some guidance or assistance in dealing with the attack. Number 5, seek professional help. Consider engaging cybersecurity experts who specialize in ransomware recovery and decryption. Then, number 6, notify affected parties. If sensitive data has been compromised, notify affected parties as required by law or regulations. Sometimes they don't do that. So this ransomware is a very dangerous attack, and it is still going on. Ransomware is going on today. Ransomware is happening right now, and people are in it. Sometimes when we talk about these attacks, you may not know that they are dangerous and serious. But this has clarified it for you to know that it is really going on. I'm going to pause for 2 minutes, and after the 2 minutes, I'll begin with a video, and then we will talk about the last type of malware, and you'll be given an assignment. After the video, we will talk about spyware. Spyware. Please, if you can hear me, put ransomware in the chat first, then put spyware in the chat for me. I will see you.
Viruses, worms, Trojans, and bots are all part of a class of software called malware. The overwhelming majority of malware is created to make money illegally, often by stealing sensitive and confidential information from victims' computers and mobile devices. Malware can also be used for cyber vandalism, cyber espionage, hacktivism, cyber warfare, and various other reasons. Malware can make entry onto your computer via questionable file downloads, visiting infected websites, or through email containing a seemingly benign link or attachment. Common types of malware. Viruses. Almost all viruses are attached to an executable file, which means the virus may exist on a system but will not spread until a user opens the infected program. Viruses often originate on the internet and spread when downloading a file infected with a virus, peer-to-peer file sharing, or email attachment. Trojan. A Trojan is a harmful piece of software that looks legitimate. Users are typically tricked into leading and executing it on their systems. Trojans can not only steal your sensitive data, they can also give cyber crooks access to your system. Trojans are employed to gain access to your computer's financial and personal information. Ransomware. Ransomware holds your PC hostage and demands money. It locks up your computer, threatening to destroy data, demanding ransom or a payment for release of your data, files, or to regain the ability to use your computer again. Spyware. Spyware secretly gathers private information about the user activity, such as internet usage, and logs keystrokes via the process of keylogging to steal passwords and other sensitive data. Worms. Worms can replicate themselves and infect multiple computers on a network, causing major damage. Network worms often use computer networks to spread, slowing down traffic and relying on security failures such as outdated operating systems and no antivirus programs installed. In contrast, viruses require the spreading of an infected host file. Worms are a standalone software and do not require a host or human help to spread. The best way to protect your system from malware is to keep your operating system clean by downloading regular patches, updates, and making sure that your computer is protected by the latest antivirus software from a trusted vendor.
All right. So most of the time when we hear about preventing malware, the first thing you are always told is to make sure that your operating system is up to date. Your operating system is updated, and we move on to talk about other things. But the first one is always downloading updated operating systems. Now we want to talk about spyware, and when it comes to spyware, they are very devious. This video, this part actually said about spyware that
Spyware. Spyware secretly gathers private information about the user activity, such as internet usage, and logs keystrokes via the process of keylogging to steal passwords and other sensitive data.
So spyware is very dangerous. It usually hides and records spy on you. And the dangerous part is that we have what we call keyloggers. We'll talk about keyloggers and you see how they can spy on your system. Now, anytime I'm about to teach on spyware, I ask my students that, is there someone right now that you would like to spy on? Right now, I'm asking you, is there someone that you would like to spy on? Please put it in the chat for me. Is there someone in your life, someone that you would like to spy on? Let me see some answers. And the first person is saying, please put your answers in the chat for me. Is there someone that you would like to spy on? Okay. Someone says yes. Is there someone that you would like to spy on? Yes. So attackers, before they attack, sometimes they spy on you for a long time. They spy on you. And they use spyware, which is another type of malware. Look at all these malware and how they create them. There's one called spyware. And spyware is a type of malware designed to spy on you. It may not do something harmful to you, but it will stay in the background and just spy and just take notes. It hides in the background and takes notes on what you do on your computer, including the website you visit in the day and in the night, the things you download, your username and password, credit card numbers, bank details, and the emails you send and receive. Imagine. So there is a spyware that is monitoring the emails you receive and you send, the websites you visit, the things you do. And they are using your internet to spy on you, using your memory to spy on you, and they will use your internet to send the report to their boss. So the attacker is there and the attacker is receiving reports every day on the things you are doing. And when they are using the keylogger, you will see how it logs your keystrokes and sends to the attacker. Now, listen, some strains of spyware are also capable of activating cameras or microphones to watch and listen to you undetected. Wow. So they can have spyware that can turn on your camera. You know your laptop has a camera. That's what you are using for this class. A spyware can turn on the camera, probably make sure the light doesn't come on for you to see or know. And they are spying on you. You see, your camera is looking at you every time. That is why I see some people, they put some tape on the camera. I don't know what they are trying to block. Maybe because of spyware. The camera is always looking at you. You are just not aware that your camera is looking at you every time. They can hack into that camera and watch what you are doing. Sometimes you may be in your room, you may think you are alone. Some people feel free when they are in their room alone. But sometimes attackers can turn on your camera and be watching you. Well, and what you are doing. And they can also turn on your microphone. As a matter of fact, your microphone is mostly on. Maybe you are not recording something, so you don't know that your microphone is on and your microphone is working. But most of the time, your microphone is on. And as you are talking around, your microphone is just recording everything you are saying. As you speak, make calls, all the things you are saying, they are actually listening because they have hacked the microphone on your laptop. And this microphone can send a lot of information to them, depending on what they are looking for. So when it comes to spyware, it is so dangerous that it can come in any form. The sensitive information collected are then transmitted to the cyber criminals who will use them to steal your money, hack into your system, or even steal your identity. So they spy on you and they receive the information. And the hacker will use the information to now launch his attack. Spyware is a silent but dangerous form of malware that can compromise your privacy, your security, and your financial well-being. Spyware is a type of malicious software designed to infiltrate into your computer, gather information about you, transmit to third parties about the things you do. Unlike other forms of malware, spyware operates stealthily in the background, often undetected, while it monitors your activity. Spyware is a category of malware that secretly collects information about a user's activity, such as browsing habit, passwords, personal data, and transmits it to the attacker. The information gathered by the spyware can be used for various purposes, including identity theft, financial fraud, and targeted advertisement. Sometimes they use it for advertisement. How does it work? Number one, infiltration. Spyware enters your system through bundled software, malicious downloads, or by exploiting security vulnerabilities in the operating system or software applications. It can also be delivered through phishing emails. Wow, these phishing emails, it can give you a Trojan horse, it can give you a spyware, it can give you a worm, it can also give you a virus. Infected websites or through social engineering tactics. Monitoring. Once installed, spyware runs quietly in the background, tracking user activities. It can record keystrokes. So there's something called keylogger. It can record keystrokes, capture screenshots. Can you imagine? As you are using your computer, the spyware is taking screenshots and sending it to the boss. Log your browsing history. Your browsing history can also be sent and collect other sensitive information. When it comes to data transmission, the data collected by the spyware is sent back to the attacker, who can use it for various malicious purposes, including selling the data to third parties, committing fraud, or launching further attacks. Persistence. Spyware is designed to remain hidden and persist on a system for as long as possible. Sometimes they can be there for years, evading detection by antivirus software and other security measures. Types of spyware. We have one type called keyloggers. Please type keyloggers in the chat for me. Keyloggers. Type in the chat for me. Keyloggers. Let me see. Keyloggers. Keyloggers. Please put that in the chat for me. Thank you. All right. So when you see these keyloggers, there are two words in it. One is key, talking about your keyboard. And number two is log. This log is talking about keeping a log or taking notes. So the keyloggers, what they do is that they log every keystroke or every key press. This is what they do. As you are using your computer, they are working in the background and they are recording every key press. So in the whole day, as you keep pressing your keyboard, they record everything you have pressed the whole day. You have pressed the whole day. So in the whole day, did you log into your Facebook account? That means your password is part of the data they have. Did you make any payment? That means they have access to the things you typed. Look at how the attackers want to get you. So even your keyboard, anything you press can be recorded by a keylogger. Credit card numbers, sensitive information. So these programs can record every keystroke made on a computer, allowing attackers to capture passwords, credit card numbers, and other sensitive information. So all the data that will be sent to the attacker, the passwords and these things, they are parts. They can use other tools to analyze them and detect credit cards, passwords, and other things. Number 2, we have adware. Adware is a type of spyware. While primarily used to display unwanted advertisements, some adware functions as spyware by tracking your browsing habits and collecting data to serve targeted advertisement to you. So sometimes they spy on you and they sell advertisements to you based on your habits, your history, and your interests. Number 3, Trojans. Some Trojans carry spyware, tricking users into installing what appears to be legitimate, which then secretly monitors their activities. When it comes to monitoring, these programs track and log a wide range of activities on the computer, including applications used, website visited, and interactions with files and documents. Tracking cookies. Although less malicious, than other forms of spyware, tracking cookies are used by websites to monitor a user's browsing habits across the internet, often without the user's knowledge. So there are cookies that can track your activities, and they can keep tracking everything you do, even when you leave their site. So sometimes they are also spyware to spy on you so that data can be collected for advertisements or other things. The effect of spyware, we have data loss of privacy, identity theft, degraded system performance, unauthorized access, targeted advertisement. These are all things that can happen if your machine is infected with spyware. Prevention and protection. We'll talk more about this tomorrow, but install good antivirus software, keep your system up to date, and always, when we talk about updating, regularly update your operating system. Operating system always comes as number 1. Your browser and other software to patch vulnerabilities that spyware could exploit. Number 3, be cautious with downloads. Avoid downloading software from untrusted sources. If you download anything, so tomorrow we'll talk about the prevention, download from the manufacturer. If the program was created by Microsoft, download from Microsoft's website or their designated website that is trusted and known. Don't download from a strange website. Don't download from a site that is unknown. There are some sites that offer downloads, but they are credible download sites. You can download from there. So always check the credibility of the software and the site before downloading anything. Avoid clicking on suspicious links. Be wary of clicking on links in email, social media, or website that seem suspicious. You yourself, something tells you that something is wrong. This could lead to sites that install spyware or on your system. Then use strong passwords. Last time we learned how to use strong passwords. We learned that there are supposed to be 4 elements in your password. You need to have an uppercase, lowercase, a symbol, and a number. Also use MFA, multi-factor authentication, to protect your accounts. Then regularly check and manage browser extensions, the extensions in your Chrome. Then enable pop-up blockers to block pop-ups when advertisements is coming in. The last thing we'll talk about here is that when there is an infection, how do you respond? Disconnect from the internet, run a full system scan, change passwords, monitor financial accounts, reset your system, and notify affected parties. This is what you do when you have been attacked and what you should do. Tomorrow we'll get into details of prevention, and we will start wrapping up malware. Since we started this program, we are structuring everything, and all the steps we are taking are actually steps that are leading us step by step. And we are getting ready for serious things. And while doing that, we are waiting for those who are yet to complete the admissions to do that, so that we know the full team for the programs. So let's get ready for greater things. All right. So when it comes to spyware, there could be several devastating effects. First of all, loss of privacy. Spyware can invade your privacy by collecting sensitive information such as your login credentials, financial details, personal communications. Wow. So all the private things that you have said to someone that you think that it is only between you and God, sometimes it is also between a spyware. A spyware also knows about it. Then you can also have an identity theft. Collected information can be used by attackers to impersonate victims, leading to identity theft and financial fraud. Then we also have degraded system performance. Spyware can consume system resources, leading to slower performance, frequent crashes, and other technical issues. Then unauthorized access. Attackers can use the data collected by spyware to gain unauthorized access to your systems and your accounts. Spyware can also be used to send targeted advertisements. So we have done well, and we have covered a whole lot about various types of malware. And at this point, I want to believe that if we mention any of the malware we have covered, you have something unique to say about them. You know something about them. You are aware of how they operate. If I mention spyware, you know that it hides in the background and it takes notes. Some of the things it does, you can even tell someone about it. When we say ransomware, you have an idea. What is ransomware? How it works? How it uses cryptocurrency to collect the payment so that they cannot be trapped. They will not tell you to bring it somewhere and they'll meet you and collect the money. No, they won't do that. They will not tell you to leave the money somewhere and go. They won't do that. And they will not tell you to send it to this bank account. They won't do that, because bank accounts can be traced. And those in the banking sector, you know that money can be traced. Money can be tracked. And most of the time, when there is crime and there's money involved, they trace the money. And the money always leads to the people involved. So they give you a currency that you can't trace, which is cryptocurrency, and they use it to do their malicious activities. When I mention Trojan horse, you quickly have an idea of what a Trojan horse is. When I mention a worm, you know what it is. When I mention virus, you know what it is. So far, this is where we are going to end our presentation.